Hi. Awesome email. Thanks for all that work.
I hope it helped a little.
I really felt like, oh, I got a good idea what we can and can't do, and I got a good idea what we need to decide. Made it very practical.
Thank you.
It's helpful or not. I haven't talked to anybody about where I'm at, but unless I hear something dramatic, I'm no one from the Oh. Okay, that's good. I mean, that's where I'm leaning unless something changes. I only say that as an FYI.
That was just discovered, I guess.
Great.
He just let her know.
All right. Keeps it spicy. I think Kenny's got a better look than Dolly here. It takes more than a wig and some push-up bras to make you look like Dolly.
Thanks for that thing on the internet. It's Joe called me this morning, wanted to know about it and how the meeting went. And I says, Joe, we're a day early. Because it ain't till tonight.
The meeting is now going to come to order.
I think you're going to have to speak louder than that.
I'm going to have to use this sparingly. Okay, that helps. The meeting's going to now come to order.
Nope. Maybe a couple of bangs.
All right. Do I need to do it again the third time? No.
Yeah.
I think I can talk. Well, I don't know. I've been talking all day. So, all right, meeting's going to come to order. We already called that, so it's what, minute after 5. There, I had to go out and get the list. Anybody who wants to testify, hopefully they've already signed up to do so. Anybody who needs to sign up.
You're saying public comment, right?
No, this is to talk during the open meeting, which is what I'll go into.
I just heard some chatter in the back about using the word testify. So if
Yeah.
people, it's not like a court hearing where they're testifying.
Well, you're the legislative body. This is my upbringing with the legislature. Yes, you will be testifying in front of.
I just don't want them to think it's that dramatic, you know what I mean?
Well, a lot of municipalities are afraid of that, but once they get to the state, you are testifying. But anyway, so meeting's called to order, 5 o'clock. We're going to do a roll call.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Butler-Chandler here. Mr. Wissaucer?
Here.
Mr. Stevens-Bliss?
Here.
Ms. Kellerman?
Here.
Mr. Rosecrans.
Here.
Mr. Bensie's absent tonight.
Okay, so we have a quorum. It is so good to see these chairs filled. Hopefully this will be informative for you. If those of those who have an agenda, we're on to, which is our meeting procedures. Now, what's going to take place, just so you all understand this, the podium is where you're going to speak. I have the list. If there's anybody that's going to testify who has it assigned, please let me know, because I'm going to start at the top and go down. Then you're going to have, well, I already did it. You've got to sign in, you're going to speak to the podium. We've got guest speakers, thank goodness, who are here, and they will introduce themselves so that you will understand this process from the point of view of what they're looking at and why they're looking at it. Does that make sense, guys? Okay.
Marie,
Murray.
I know that Brenda sent out a description of some rules and guidelines for us, and she had 4 items that we needed to decide. How did you want to handle that?
Brenda and I already talked about that, which I didn't understand, and she was just saying those were her thoughts on doing it. You have your copy?
So
Okay.
you did the first one.
So I've introduced them. Now, what she has decided is the board needs to decide if the meeting is going to be open to the public. Well, of course it's open to the public, that's why they're here.
No, I don't think that's what that says.
And then that says. Unless you didn't read
And
it.
you'll have to talk to Brenda.
No, that's not what it said. Like, you're right, it's open to the public. It says, will the meeting be opened up to take public input? Will each person of the public be allowed to participate from their seat, or do you want them at the podium? What is the time limit? So did you have, I don't mean to step on your toe. Is there a process to decide those things?
Those have already been talked about. That's what I said. I've talked about the guest speakers. I've talked about the rationale that they're going to give as to where they're at. We've talked about they're going to go to the podium. We've talked about the sign-in sheet with their names only, so that they can be called.
I'm sorry, I must have misread it. I read it as saying board decision required.
Yeah, I know. But when you have a committee, and this was the discussion that we had, this special meeting that we're having, it will be open to the public so that you do it. And it is in our board rules, if Ryan helped write those rules, I think, where it states that anytime you have a special meeting, it always is open. So this is why I have a sign-in sheet, so that I know and can control who it is that's speaking, when they're speaking, so I don't have 10 hands going up and trying to prove who had the first hand. So if you haven't signed up to speak, please do so at this point.
So you're saying you just decided these things yourself?
She hasn't went down the whole list.
Oh,
That's where we're going next.
that's what I'm trying to,
That's exactly right. That,
don't worry, we'll get to you.
yes, that's what this board votes on. It says that it's a 3-minute. I'm requesting,
He wanted to sign it.
oh, no, that's why I asked.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you asking.
Here's a pen.
Thank you, sir.
It states that it's 3 minutes. I'm looking for 6. The board needs to vote on whether or not it will go to 6 or whether you'll stick at 3.
Yes, sir.
The purpose, thank you. The purpose for 6, obviously, is because of the thought process of being able to explain situations. 3 minutes usually isn't a long enough time. So that's why I'm asking the board at this point whether or not they can go for 6 minutes as opposed to 3 minutes. So I need a second.
I second it.
You're saying you made a motion
I
to
made
do
a
that?
motion to go to 6 minutes,
Do you want
and
to,
there's a second.
I'm sorry, do you want to do these all together or separate?
I don't understand
Who's doing
half of those. No, I don't want to do those because frankly, those are understood. Where's this from your, this is for, this is a special meeting? Where was that? See, I haven't seen that, so I don't know
We need to
what you're.
decide if you're going to allow them to speak one time or more than one time. The
All
board
right.
has to decide that
On-
also.
On your process, on your agenda, it tells you that you have this public meeting, this special meeting that's taking place. Then it has public statements. So the thought being that you will speak, depending on whether the board wants you for 3 minutes or 6 minutes to talk, and then you'll have another chance to do public comments, and those will be a 3-minute. Yes.
Can I request that the road commission and the drain commission
Yes, they are
start
going to go first.
if they would like to go first?
Yes,
Okay.
well, they don't have a choice, you guys.
Okay.
That's what you get paid big bucks for, you're gonna go first.
But then also be on call if there are questions pertinent to their,
Well, that's what the opening is.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
No, thank you, Patsy.
You have two meetings scheduled here. You have your regular township board meetings.
I don't have it.
This is a special meeting you're putting on, and it's scheduled to start at 5 p.m.
That's correct.
And the regular township board meeting is supposed to convene at 6 p.m. You have 16 members who are going signed up to speak, not including public officials. 16 times 6 is 96 minutes. So how are you going to handle that now?
When it was posted.
Are you gonna run this meeting longer than 1 hour, or what are you gonna do?
Yes,
This
there
is a
was no
math
time,
thing.
there was no time on it. As it was posted, which is what our clerk posted, there is no time on it. So our meeting will start, you can still have her, go ahead.
There's an issue with that, with the way the township MTA puts that, and you have posted start to mean your regular meeting at scheduled hours, so you need to make some sort of adjustment here, and you need to make an announcement. If you're not, you should have did this long before this, if you're gonna allow this. Because, I mean, 6 minutes, 96 minutes. That's what it is. You're out of compliance.
No.
Yes.
But, having said that, when it was posted, there is no time limit for it. Our board of trustees, their meeting will start immediately after, well, actually, we have a 10-minute break. It'll start after this meeting completes.
So you have a motion. You need a roll call.
No, I did that.
There was no roll call.
You haven't roll called yet.
There's no roll call.
Ready?
So I'm sorry, I have one more question. So Marie,
Okay,
you're saying what Steve is saying is not correct. We don't have to start at our normal time. But Steve's saying there's a compliance issue, we do.
and I'd say, yeah, Steve may be saying that, but what this meeting is, it's open to the public, which means that.
No, I understand that, but do you have some insight on the compliance piece? Because it sounds like Brenda and Steve do.
On the compliance piece. What did you put in when you posted?
MTA said that we should take into consideration and start the meeting at 6 o'clock as it's regularly scheduled.
Even though it's
time.
posted that there was no time limit.
I did that for your request.
Yes, you did, because there is no time limit. For the reason that you say, there is no way that you can tell how long this is going to last.
In your
Sorry,
opinion,
guys, you gotta sit through this. I know.
Let's vote.
We're gonna vote on whether they're 3 minutes or 6 minutes.
Yes.
That's.
So the motion is
was-
6.
The motion is that we allow 6 minutes as opposed to 3 minutes. So public testimony.
Okay, Ms. Kellerman,
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss,
No.
Mr. Rosecrans,
No.
Ms. Butler Challenger, no. Ms. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Wisswasser.
no.
All right, guys, you get 3 minutes to be able to explain to us what your thoughts are. Okay? All right. Is there any other questions? Did I miss something? Okay. Then we are going to start the opening with our guests so that they can kind of lay the foundation for where we're at and what's happening with it. Oh, I'm sorry. That's true. Before we do that, we've done that. We approved the agenda, well, approval of the agenda. And we've already voted in opposition of 6 minutes, so
Are you ready for a motion?
I'm ready for a motion.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second?
Ms. Kellerman,
Yes.
Mr. Wisswasser,
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss,
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans,
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Ms. Howe.
No. Okay. Are you all now ready to start? All right. Which one of you guys wants to raise your hand first? Should we have the road commission go first? Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Doug Steffen, I'm the Managing Director for the Clinton County Road Commission, and we're just here to support the township. We're going to be here to field any questions about the process of abandonment. what that process is and how that process needs to be followed. So I have some legal counsel here that's we use through our insurance pool that we use all the time to navigate us through this process. So any questions that come up, we'll be able to answer those and get everybody the answers they need. So thanks for having us tonight.
You did that well.
Yeah, go ahead, Karen.
May I?
Sure.
It's
That's fine.
been brought to my attention that I may have misspoke at the last meeting. Would you like to clarify the statement that I made and provide correct information? I believe I indicated that we as a property owner at the end of Webster Road needed to sign on to the petition to abandon the public right of way,
Okay.
and I believe that's not correct.
Bill, do you want to come up and speak to that?
Yeah, I can.
Yep. This is Bill Henn. He's our legal counsel from Henn Lesperance.
Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for the interview. Hi, everybody. Bill Henn from Henn Lesperance in Grand Rapids. I've worked with road commissions since 2001. I was asked here today just to basically answer questions that either the commission has or any of the members of the public have about the process of abandonment. Your point, as I understood it, was that you had made a statement to the effect that the township, as an owner of property that is adjacent to a segment of this road that is proposed to be abandoned, has to sign the petition seeking the abandonment, and that's not true. The petition has to be signed by 7 freeholders of the township. Freeholder is a really old word, but basically it means you have to have a fee interest. You can't have like a leasehold. You have to be a fee owner of property within Bath Township. And as long as that petition has the signatures of 7 different fee holders, then the road commission, that invokes the mechanism under the statute for the road commission board to make the determination in its discretion as to whether that abandonment serves the public interest.
Sorry, could you say again what fee holder means?
Oh, like if you buy a house, normally what we talk about is you purchase it in fee. You have a fee simple. That's a description of the type of ownership that you have. That would be, let's say, in comparison to a lease. If I have a lease for a property, then I have a leasehold interest, not a freehold interest. So when it says a freeholder, that means somebody that is actually an owner rather than a lessor of property within the township.
Thank you. I appreciate you clarifying that.
Sure
for me.
thing.
Now I'm gonna, so it's fee, F-E-E, not free.
The statute calls it freeholder, but
Okay.
my interpretation of that for you is that a freeholder is somebody who possesses a fee-type interest rather than a leasehold.
Quick question. So you're saying all of the township of Bath, you only need 7 people that own a home to sign that? That's all it takes?
To invoke the mechanism under the statute where the road commission board decides whether to abandon it or not.
So 7 people in the entire Bath township, that seems like pretty much you could-
Whether they live on the road or not. Now,
That's
whether,
what I mean, that only takes 7 people in the entire township of Bath.
Sure.
Heck, you can have 7 friends that go on your side and sign that.
Sure, well,
Basically, everybody here is basically wasting the time.
Right.
That's the
just,
outcome of
all right, but understand,
Right.
just because
Are
7
we opening it up
people,
at this
7
point?
freeholders sign the petition doesn't mean that the road
I don't
commission
think it
board
has
is going to
been. These
conclude that
folks
the
have the floor.
abandonment is in the public interest. The road commission board has to decide on its
So
own.
you're
It's got
opening up to the
discretion
entire
figure
group right
out
now.
what the public interest
It's not-
means.
it's not
But
always
one
open
thing
to the
that I would
public.
expect the board to look
It
at
is
is
not.
how many of those people that sign that petition actually live on that road or are affected by that road. Because, I mean, to your point, if there's people in the far corners of the township that don't live on that road and don't have use of that road, well, then if I were a road commissioner, I can't speak for them, but if I was a road commissioner, I'd think, well, you know, maybe their voices aren't as important as the people that actually live on that road and use that road. But, you know, it goes into the calculus, I think. Sure.
So can I clarify that this meeting is not really making a decision about whether that's going to happen? That's all going to happen at the board, at the road commission board level, if, assuming that this gets invoked or has been invoked already?
To my understanding, and I can be corrected if I'm wrong, but I do not believe that a petition has been submitted to the road commission board yet. So the whole process hasn't even started yet. It's preliminary, but I'm sorry, your question was?
We're not the decision makers, is what he's
Oh, right.
asking.
I'm trying to figure out what, I got a notice that somebody had wanted this and that there was a meeting about it.
Sure.
And my assumption was that some decision related to that process was being made at this meeting today, or potentially being made at this meeting today, or whatever. So I'm trying to figure out, like, what are we speaking to today? If that seems to have nothing to do with the township.
From my perspective, and I mean, it certainly would defer to the township, but, you know, I believe this was, at least from the road commission's perspective, it's still at the preliminary stage. I don't believe that a petition for abandonment has been submitted yet. But this is sort of a unique situation because the township is an actual owner of property that is along this road that's proposed to be abandoned. So the township is wearing sort of two hats. You know, number one, you're the governing municipality in which that road sits, but also you are one of the adjacent landowners that would be affected by the proposed abandonment. And so, you know, ultimately, I think the township probably will want to take a position on whether to support the abandonment, either by signing the petition or at least taking a formal stance. Yes, we think this is in the public interest, or no. But ultimately, that decision to abandon the road and whether that's in the public interest is solely for the Board of County Road Commissioners. So even if the township says, we don't think this is a good idea, the Board of County Road Commissioners could, if it disagrees with the township, nevertheless go ahead and approve that abandonment petition. Not saying that would happen, but, you know, that's just how it works. I think road commissions, most of the ones that I work with, they want to know what the township thinks, especially about the abandonment of local roads, because townships sometimes put in money to improve local roads and things like that. So I think the dialogue should be had, but ultimately the decision goes to the road commission board.
So has it been proposed or not?
The abandonment?
No, it has not. Okay, you keep speaking to the proposed, so
Yeah.
I wanted to clarify.
Well, it's being talked about, right, so, yeah.
It's on the agenda this week,
What is?
the vote on whether or not.
On the regular.
It's on the regular agenda, whether, my interpretation was that, not this meeting, not the special meeting, but the subsequent meeting tonight, was for whether or not the township board was going to approve joining the petition or not.
That would be an appropriate question for the township board, whether they want to sign the petition as an adjacent owner.
And this is an information.
And that has some consequences under the abandonment statute, because if the petition is signed by all of the affected adjacent landowners, then it's a shorter process to get to the county road commission board's decision. If the petition is not signed by all of the adjacent landowners, so for example, if the township decides not to sign it, the road commission board still can act on the petition, but it has to have a public hearing, there has to be notice. The DNR has the right to come in and take over the property. I mean, there's a whole sequence of things that happen in addition, you know, sort of safeguards, I think, if all of the adjacent landowners don't sign that petition. So their question, I think, is an appropriate one. As an adjacent landowner, you need to decide whether you're going to sign the petition or not, understanding that whether you do or not may not have any impact ultimately on the road commission board's decision.
May I ask you one more question?
Sure.
So we don't have to get you back up to the podium. You and I have spoken about this before some time ago, about Liber 293, page 172.
In a Zoom meeting, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's a circuit court ruling of 1958. Everybody that has this has a copy of it. And it's just an excerpt of what I typed, because the microfiche was very difficult to read. I feel that this is very germane to this exact topic. So when and if the petition goes forward, and whether or not the road commission elects to subsequently, acknowledge the petition, how will this circuit court ruling in 1958 that is specifically about that stretch of road affect their decision?
What's your conclusion about the circuit court ruling?
My interpretation of the circuit court ruling is cut and dried. It says that the roadway shall be for public use.
Right.
And allowed for public use. And what this also states is that this circuit court ruling relieved the road commission of all responsibility of maintenance on that road. And that's why those two private individuals have to plow that road, or they do plow that road now, is because in 1958, the circuit court ruled on these two landowners back 4 subdivisions ago of that property, sued the road commission because they wanted them to make it a public road so that they could get plowed out and they wouldn't have to repair the road.
But what the court held was that it is for public use, which
Correct.
makes it a public road.
Correct.
But also that the road commission was not required to, or that the court couldn't force the road commission to perform any particular maintenance.
Correct as well.
So the road commission said, private landowners, if you want this maintenance and it's worth it to you, then we'll allow you to do it on the road, but it's gonna be, at your cost. We're not gonna do it.
Correct.
All of that said, that doesn't address the question of if the road commission board is presented with a proper petition to abandon what was determined in 57 or 58 to be a public right-of-way. That decision, in my opinion, is not going to prevent the road commission board from concluding that they don't want it to be a public road anymore. They would rather relinquish their jurisdiction over it and have it go to the adjacent landowners, which is typically what happens. On a road like that, the adjacent landowners will own to the center line on each side. And if the public easement is dissolved or abandoned by the road commission, then those adjacent owners claim that land to the center line because technically they always had it because the highway was just an easement anyway.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm wondering is what happens if they grant the abandonment?
If they grant the abandonment, and again, this is so complicated, and I can probably never forgive the legislature for letting it get to this point when they amended the statute a bunch of times. But depending on the sort of petition that it is, whether it's one that's signed by all of the adjacent landowners or not, that has some effect on what happens to the land immediately if the road commission approves the abandonment. So if all of the adjacent landowners have signed the petition and the road commission board then approves the abandonment, that land immediately reverts back to the adjacent landowners without any further action. If it's the other sort of petition that is not signed by all of the adjacent property owners, the first place, this is an oddity, but the first place that land goes, if the abandonment is approved, is to the township. And then the township decides whether they want to do something with it. What a township would do with an old county highway right-of-way, I don't know, because it's not like you don't own it in fee. You just have the easement rights. So you have any rights that are associated with transportation. So ingress, egress, maybe utilities, that sort of thing you'd have control over, but you couldn't open like a township park or use it for recreational purposes. It still would be limited to those narrow rights associated with transportation.
Would you say that again about not being able to open a township park?
Well, the highway easement is limited to things that are necessary or incidental for travel, public travel. What the courts have interpreted that to mean through the decades is that if you're driving a car, if you're walking, if you're on a bicycle, if you're on a horse, clearly, the county road commission can regulate that and has the right to improve and maintain the road to facilitate that. It's been expanded to include necessary public utilities like telephone, electric, gas, water, sewer. All of those things are appropriate for a right-of-way, but there are uses to the right-of-way that can't be accommodated without the permission of the adjacent landowners. And those are associated with property rights that don't have anything to do with or aren't necessary or incident to transportation. So best example is riparian rights. If a road commission has a highway easement and the road ends in the water, the road commission doesn't have riparian rights. Those are retained by the adjacent landowners. There are some rights that the public has that's associated with a road ending, because a road that ends in water can be used for putting boats in and swimming and entering the water and exiting the water. But you can't, at a road end, if it's a proper formal road end, you can't make a public park. You can't do sunbathing, you can't do picnicking, you can't do lounging. Those are all rights that would go against the rights held by the adjacent property owners. Those aren't necessary and incidental to public travel. So believe me, people have been fighting about these sorts of property rights in Michigan for 150 years, almost since the state was patented. So there's a large body of law that discusses highway endings and what rights road commissions hold and what happens when they convey them. But my point was simply that in that circumstance, if it reverts to the township isn't gifted with fee simple. It doesn't have all of the rights associated with property ownership. It has only the rights that the road commission had. But the township, under the statute, has the right, with that sort of petition, to keep the property. It also has the right to allow it to revert to the adjacent owners.
Thank you.
All right, is anybody else that has?
Just one quick, like, I guess one of the issues is, I guess, but, I got billed for thousands of dollars because of the zoning commission and stuff, and they had fixed the dam and, thought they were upkeep things and stuff. You abandon all that road area, how do you access that dam and stuff that you charge me thousands of dollars to fix?
I'm not as familiar with the precise layout, and I won't pretend to speak for the drain commissioner. But drain easements are separate from highway easements. So, and this, what we're contemplating, or what I've heard is being contemplated, is a petition to abandon a highway easement. That wouldn't affect a county drain if there's a county drain through there. It wouldn't, if the road commission abandons its easement, it wouldn't abandon the drain commission's easement.
Or the dam or whatever, they spent $800,000 on?
The water control structure you're talking about. Yeah, I know. There just seems to be some confusion about his use of the word dam.
Okay, if there's nothing other that needs to be said for the attorney, thank you ever so much for being here. Thank you, I appreciate it. I assume we're all getting the opinion that this is a public petition to abandon a portion of the Webster Road right away. That's why we're here. So, just so it's understood, I hope that was understood by what the attorney was saying. Yes.
I'm sorry, I thought you were moving on. I wanted,
No,
Drain Commissioner.
Drain Commission.
Yes,
sorry.
thank you.
I just wanted to make sure that it was understood that this petition, which I did have a question with that petition, but I think it was answered for what I was looking at. Commissioner Hayes, thank you so much for coming. Usually it's the other way around.
Good evening. My name is Phil Hanses. I'm the Clinton County Drain Commissioner, and I wanted to talk a little bit about this situation here. So to address the gentleman's question over there. When we did the project about 10 years ago now, we acquired easements over several properties all the way from Oak Island Mobile Home Community on the east side all the way around up Webster Road to, if you're coming from the north, we have easement to where the first bend in Webster Road is. So that will exist whether the road right-of-way is there or not, and we will have all the rights we need to maintain the control structure and the berms themselves. So that, as far as I'm concerned, I don't really have a position on whether the road right-of-way is abandoned or not. I just want to make clear that regardless, we will be able to maintain the structure that many of you paid for through your assessments. The county owns a chunk of the property on which the actual control structure is on, and we will continue to own that. And if we don't, if we should deed it over to the township, as some people have suggested, we will maintain an easement for ourselves to access that control structure and to maintain the berms all the way around. I do want to make clear, because I think a lot of the concern that I've been hearing from people on is if they abandon the road right away, then we can't construct a non-motorized trail. I don't believe that to be the case. All of our easements that we constructed, that we acquired to construct the berm, clearly state that it's a berm and access agreement. One of them even says for the purposes of a berm and non-motorized trail. So to me, that's not an issue. That could still happen if that should be the desires of the township at some point in the future.
Anybody else have a question before I ask mine?
I have a question. I thought I found, I might not be finding the effort of that.
during the construction for the dam, that the road is actually improved, this access road that we're talking about. Is that true?
We did make improvements because we shifted the berm to underneath what is now Webster, well, what it was, is Webster Road, and what we call, the property, if you're familiar with it, south of the road end sign, though there were improvements made there because we had to raise that area approximately 4 feet to serve as the berm. So we reconstructed that, built a nice a clay dike underneath it, and then resurfaced the driveway that was destroyed and the roadway that was destroyed during the construction process.
So those costs were captured in the total cost in the assessment that we
Yes.
just now?
Yeah. In the township,
There was something said about that, it just mentioned being approved by any government entity, so it sounds like.
there were certain improvements made as part of our project. The township paid extra to actually widen the cross-section in that area south of where the road end sign sits there now. They paid extra so we can build some extra width in there so that a trail could be built along there at some point in the future. So.
Go ahead. It said, that the drain commission would need to agree to an easement for a bridge to be built across the drain, that the bridge, that the dam, the lake leveling contraption is, not to be used by the public and should not be walked upon according to you.
Yeah, I would agree. There is what we call a catwalk constructed, if you're familiar with the structure, and that is out there to maintain the stop logs in the water level control structure. It is not there for public use, and it's not to be considered a bridge and can just be extended. But if a trail was to be built and someone wanted to construct a bridge across the water in that area, I would not be opposed to that.
My question with this whole thing, when you talk about your right-of-way or your easement that you have, that would still stay in place, that would be on, I'll be sure I'm doing my directions correctly, that would be on the west side of the road?
It's on
Because
both
Webster-
sides of the roads. We've got a center line described for a berm and access easement. And the easement is 40 feet each side of the center line. And then essentially it runs down the center of Webster Road when it is a 2-lane roadway. And then when it enters what I call the private driveway section, we own basically 40 feet each side of the east side of that pavement section.
So what you would like, what we're asking for the abandonment, which, if I'm understanding correctly, with the road, this is not a proper petition, but what they are asking is that you abandon an easement, or that an easement be abandoned from the road commission, if I'm understanding that correctly. No, okay.
They still maintain these.
So it's not the whole thing or a portion. What is it that, and maybe this is not the right question for you. When you talk about the drain that goes alongside, that you built the berm in order to do that, can the berm be walked on? I mean, it's a berm like a dam, only it's not high enough to be called a dam. That's the differentiation between a berm and a dam. It's the height.
I call it a dike, but it was built with such a width, such that a trail could be built along, on top of the dike.
Okay.
And that's even true on the south side of the lake, where there is no roadway. It was built and designed specifically such that a trail could be built on top of that dike.
So if you needed an easement to get to the structure, the trail wouldn't interfere with your access,
No,
but you would still own it.
right, the
Okay.
county still owns that one
Okay.
piece of property which we acquired on which to construct this control structure.
I have a question about the property lines for the county parcel
Mm-hmm,
to the north and the Tierney parcel to the south, the private landowner.
mm-hmm.
On all of your surveys, it states that the property line goes down the center line of the culvert, legacy land bridge. So is it trespassing for the public to come from county property where the water control structure is, to go directly onto the land bridge and walk down the center line of that bridge?
I mean, if the county owns the property to the center of what we call the land bridge, I would say it's not trespassing, but if a trail is built there, you know, we would have a separate easement with the township allowing the trail to be built on the county property.
On that land bridge?
Yeah,
You previously stated that you had an easement 40 feet on either side
right.
of the center line. So wouldn't that equate to an easement for the public to walk across that land bridge?
Well, our easements are really, technically, they're easements for a certain purpose, so they're not
Correct.
necessarily for, you know, public access. But, you know, we certainly can grant that with the permission of the property owners, in which case here, we have two property owners. We have Clinton County owns the one parcel, Bath Township owns everything else on which the trail would be constructed. So we would need that permission, you know, as well.
That land bridge is pretty much what brought all this about.
Mhm. And if that's really an issue with, you know, neighbors, I mean, you could construct a separate wooden walkway bridge
And who would
adjacent
pay
to
for-
that.
Who would pay for that?
Well, that would be part of the trail project.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We already have a bridge there, why would the public have to pay for another bridge? If that is public domain, the bridge, that's the crux.
Mhm.
And I know that's not your decision.
And that, you know, that's an issue for down the road.
Right. We know that down the road statement, we've
You
been
know,
doing that for about 12 years.
And, you know, based on the easement, or the drawings that I saw that the township or the road commission had done, that land bridge, I guess is what it's referred to, is not on that Webster Road right-of-way.
That's
area.
something else that I researched that I'd be happy to share at a later time here tonight.
Is there any other questions? Any other statement?
Is the road sign that is there, this is a private drive right now, something that was set there by the county?
That's a road commission question. She asked whether the road end sign that is there now, was that set by the county, and I responded that's a question for the road commission.
The road end sign is a county road commission sign. The private drive sign was put up by a private property owner.
So is that private drive sign legal, legit,
It's
to where
there.
it is positioned?
It's there, because basically, as described, that is a privately built and maintained driveway within a public right-of-way. So,
So to one side of that sign, it is public.
to the north of that sign,
To the west.
where our road
To
end
the
sign
east, to the east,
that's the end of the public road.
but to the east of the sign, it's public, closest to the water.
Grassy knoll, yes.
Well,
That
that's
was
drain
that.
off the property.
County drain.
No.
I think what you said.
Correct.
Part of the road.
Could he repeat, I can't hear, could you repeat the answer to that?
If you're talking about east of the sign in the grass area, that's drain office property. That's not road right of way or it's not
County property.
private road.
Is that part of the abandonment?
No.
No, that's all, okay, good. And, for sure, you could, hold on one second.
Phil, before you get down, then you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I did a little research on this. this thing was started with the Park Lake Advisory Board in 2014, their annual report, when we started the process. I wasn't here then, but I did the research and did the reading and looked at it. To answer this gentleman's question right over here about cost, I'll give you the numbers that I have as of now, right now. And the easiest way to start this is with the Bath Township tax warrant for 2022. In 2022, the drain special assessment file for the Park Lake level project is what this was put in here for, was for the Park Lake level project. It wasn't nowhere in this report right here, or nowhere in this bond document have I been able to find anything that says anything about a trail. But I'm gonna clarify what your comment was about the cost and the money you spent here. As of 2022 for the tax warrant, that'd be the taxes we're collecting right now today. There's 68 parcels that's still counted that are owed money on their Park Lake level drain. The rest of them have been paid off at one time. I looked it back up and it was almost 80 at one time that was on this special assessment file. There's 68 according to my tax warrant, which is certified from the county and comes from the drain office and the county treasurer's office. At the cost for 2022, what we collect, we're scheduled to collect $16,479.57. That's only part of it. The other piece of it that Bath Township pays is your drains at large payment, which I just got this last week. This is a payment that I make as a treasurer to the county treasurer at tax settlement, March 1st. The Park Lake level tax drains at large payment is $26,681.60. All right, so you say, what's all this about? Well, if you go to your debt service part of your audit or your budget for the Clinton County, for the entire county, you look up 851 fund, which is the drain bonds. Park Lake level is right there. The total amount of the payment is $50,589. What that includes is the principal of approximately $45,000, the interest of $5,000, and that's how you add them two payments together, and that's how you get to what it costs to take and maintain the lake level project by the township. Now, with that being said, this was done in a three-part deal from reading. I believe there was a grant that was obtained by the county, by the Drain Commission. That money was paid up front. I can't talk to you about if there was $800,000 or not, but I can tell you that this thing was originated in 2014, and the debt outstanding by the county audited numbers right now today for the remainder of 2022 is $180,000, and you're going to take 50 away from that. So I'm assuming that there was a grant, because I wasn't privy to that, but I'm assuming the grant paid for a lot of that. So actually, with that being said, the entire township, myself, who lives on Upton Road, out in northeast Bath Township, my general tax dollars are paying $26,681.60. So everybody in the township has put money into a project that they felt was a good project. The board did, obviously, when they did this in 2014. And the lake landowners, theirs is slimming down, but there's still 68 parcels. They're still paying on this thing, but nowhere does it say in any of this information that is for a trail. It all talks about the lake level study. I don't need to see that. The only thing I'm telling you is this right here. I get it. But you have the grant that paid that, Ray.
No, I'm just saying, this is the historical data that shows.
But my point is that you had a grant, you got a grant to take and help pay for this. And that's what I'm trying to explain, that paid for the majority of this, which is what happens a lot of times in this stuff. Your actual participation by the township and its residents, because we all as residents participate. You folks that are on the lake, you participate twice, because you pay general tax dollars as well as your special assessment. But I'm just clarifying what the dollar amount of the stuff here is. And even with the Park Lake Advisory Board in 2014, they don't talk about trailer, it talks about the lake level and getting the lake level back, so the water levels. In 2012, they set the standards for the water levels, and I think Mr. Yurkon right there was very responsible for that. And that's what they started with, is to get this water control structure in place. I don't know if that helps you or not, but that kind of answers that guy's question over there, how this thing is funded. It's funded by everybody in this township. It's not just one person.
Mr. Wishwasser, everybody in this township is welcome to enjoy that lake as well. So the lake, there's 120 lakefront owners who took the burden of almost $3,000 each per 40-foot parcel that they may own. So that's above and beyond what everyone else is paying. So don't really try and make it sound like, you know, everyone is taking on extra burdens, because everyone has the right to use the beach, to use the park, to use the boat launch, to use, when it is available, maybe to eat the nature trail. So,
Absolutely, but the point I'm trying to make is out of the 120 down to 68 at this current tax year, it still owes on that special assessment project. And it's $180,000 of municipal debt that the county shares and we share that's bonded that we do by special assessment and drain at large. That's my point. It's not $800,000. Some of that is a good number. I get raised phone thing there. I've seen that. I know exactly what you're talking about there. But it's a good number, but some of that was paid by grant.
Yeah, I can't find anything about a grant.
It states it.
There's bonds.
If you look at bond language, I believe Philip states it there, isn't that right?
Technically, there wasn't really a grant, but the county did contribute extra. In this case, they contributed $135,000 above and beyond what they would have been assessed. The township contributed 160, almost 167,000 more than what they would have been assessed.
So that would be on top of the
Yeah.
180, you have outstanding debt plus your payments
Right.
you've made every year. And you with 68, you're making $50,000 of payments, so think of what it was when it was 120. It was even more, but that's the money trail, that's the only thing I'm trying to tell.
Yeah, it's listed as voluntary payment by the county, not a grant.
Yep.
All right, you can, someone in the back.
It's actually for you, I just wanted to confirm. Last time at the meeting, it was, they asked, so if the road was abandoned, would they ever be able to put in a nature trail? And it said, no, they could not put in a nature trail unless they had the property owner's permission. And then it sounded more like you were saying that, no, that even if they got it to the commission to approve that, to abandon that part of the road, that we could still put in a nature trail if they decided to move forward with it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because there's two property owners involved. Essentially, Clinton County's owned the one parcel, and then Bath Township owns, a lot of property along the west and south side of that lake.
But we would have to negotiate new easements with your office over your property, is that correct?
Yeah, which is not really, a roadblock or a hurdle, it's just a paperwork issue. So.
So, it was kind of mentioned again, but Steve had said at the last meeting that drain commissions don't allow walking on drain easements, and I would just like confirmation whether or not we do or do not have the right to go trails on the drain easements.
There's a distinction here. The easements we have are not drain easements. It's an easement for berm and access. It's the way, every one of them is entitled berm and access and easement. As far as an actual drain easement, where I have a drain constructed, for instance, downstream of the outlet control structure, I got an easement from Mr. Teramy to maintain that section of ditch. That easement does not give the public the right to walk down that easement. It's completely different. The drain easement is completely different than this berm and access easement we're talking about. So no, we don't allow people to walk on drain easements without permission from the property owner. But the berm and access easement on which the berm is constructed is an entirely different thing. And it was, at the time it was constructed, it was designed with a potential non-motorized trail could be constructed on that at some point in time.
Thank you so much for that clarification.
Sir, on the Clinton County website, you go to right-of-way easements, you go to your second page, and it's the second bullet point down, exactly what he just said. This says drain easements are not to be considered public areas, are not open to the public.
Yes.
That's exactly what I was referring to, it says that right here.
But you just say it's not a drain, it's a berm easement. So
That's correct.
Yeah.
Does that mean we can't put our kayak in the drain, maybe Chandler?
I have no idea. I can tell you this, and I'm not the drain commissioner, but I'm familiar enough with the people with ag in the area, that there's 200 feet of that drain. This is the Remy Chandler drain, it comes off Park Lake, it's not owned, it's owned by the independent landowner. And they have to get permission to go in there even cut brush.
Correct.
That's on the end of Termes, and it's the next landowner down.
Do you have a question for the drain commissioner?
Yes, not a
Okay.
question, but a statement. When Phil made that, he already made a gate for the bicycles and people to walk through. And he also made a gate on the other side, so it's already ready for a trail. The question is do you want to use that?
Yes.
We already have people use it. In fact, we have people come through at night with strobe lights on their lights. And they use that trail. One guy even mowed all the way to the trailer park, so he could use that at night. Now, I don't know who these people are, but they use it. People come down through there and walk through there and use it right now, and they walk their dogs through there.
Yep.
And I don't think anybody's ever been told they couldn't.
I am.
Ray, that yours is a little bit special on what you
All right, trustee.
I'd like that in the minutes, please. I have two questions. So I just want to clarify, are you okay with folks currently walking on the drain commissioner property? Or do we need to negotiate new easements to get that?
I'm okay with it now, yes.
Okay. I think that's what people were trying to
There should
hear
be
in
a
that statement.
case where there's vandalism or,
Yes.
you know,
Stay off the water control structure,
Yeah.
follow the rule. Okay. The second question I had is, it was presented to us at our last meeting that you also, because of your, not you personally, you as the drain commissioner, own that parcel of land, are also being asked to sign on to the petition. Is that true, and have you made a decision?
I've been asked, but I don't feel I need to sign it, and I'm not going to sign it, because to me, it's a conflict, because I know that that section was designed especially for, you know, a potential trail at some point, so, you know.
So you're not going to sign the petition?
Right, and
Okay.
and I can't sign it alone based on my legal counsel. That would need approval from the county board for me to give me authorization to sign that, so.
Okay.
You know, it's my understanding, you know, I think the road commission talked about earlier is that, at least Clinton County nor Bath Township is actually required to sign the easement, but
Right.
they can.
Thank you. That's
I mean,
helpful.
not the easement, but the
Petition. Mhm.
You got a question?
So if the county's not signing on to that, back to the attorney then, so not every adjacent landowner will sign it then, correct? So that makes it not the quick way, but the other method of happening?
That's, yeah, I mean, that's, my rudimentary understanding is that if the drain commissioner is a separate property owner on, you know, one side of this, along with the township, and the drain commissioner's office through the county decides not to sign the petition, then whatever shows up ultimately in front of the road commission board is not going to be a petition that's signed by all of the adjacent landowners, and so that would require the longer process. Right.
Thank you.
So Phil, as the Clinton County parcel owner, de facto drain commissioner, can we walk on your side of the land bridge?
I prefer it, because.
You abstained from answering.
Yeah, I would prefer to have a legal counsel answer
Understood.
that, but, you know.
Appreciate it. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Could you tell me where that's located at, that you're talking about the
The
east side?
culvert that, just downstream of the water control structure, the culvert that goes underneath the road.
Got
And
it.
if anybody wonders, it's on this map right here in front of us.
I'm glad you can see it.
Yeah. You gotta have that memorized though.
Oh, sure you do. Okay. All right.
Mrs. Sage.
There's a question. As you were a person that was there during the original design of this lake, I'm sorry, what was it, it's called?
Lake level control.
Level water control. You were there, and it sounded like you said that the intent of the berm was also for a trail. But that might not be documented, but that there was discussion at that time that it would be used for.
Yes, it was designed such that it could be used, mainly as the water, the berm to hold the water in the lake. But it could also be used for a non-motorized trail on top of the berm.
So a quick question. So is there currently a legal path that people can honor everybody's property? And honor your properties, or a path people can walk back there and not be violating property rights, personal property rights, your property rights? Is there currently a path of any way through there that can be used legally?
I would say technically we don't have on the county property. The county owns that piece, but we didn't give in a separate berm and access easement like all the other property owners did. So I guess that's
So we don't
a
currently
legal
have a
question.
legal path to get where everybody wants to get. I don't
Right.
walk, so I don't care, but
Yeah.
it sounds like a lot of people want to walk a certain path.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like we currently have a legal path to get there.
Yeah. But that could be done in a matter of weeks, if that was the desire.
Is this the legal path?
Yes.
Is
Is the demarcation.
So is this what you agree is the legal path? And is it marked, so we're not violating the private property owners' rights and county rights?
The red is the property line, Phil.
Yeah, the blue line is the defined,
Trail.
Is it marked in any way, or is it just?
no, it's not
people
marked
are
in any way.
guessing?
No.
How
Okay, there's a
difficult is
question,
it to,
there's
get
another
marked?
question. I'm sorry, did I interrupt?
No, no,
Trustee Kellerman?
Is the berm, part of the berm where the blacktop road called Webster Road, is that part of the berm itself, where it's raised up? Is it considered part of the berm?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. It's quite a long direction.
Right, but if, just to clarify, where the road end sign is, from there to the south, there's that section of pavement. That pavement is entirely off the county property. So you would have to be east of that pavement to be on the county property.
Because of the survey is not quite accurate, is that correct?
Well, I wouldn't say the survey's not accurate.
Nice try, Sherry.
It's not.
Well, it shows here.
Point of order, aren't we supposed to be closing this meeting and starting the Board of Trustees meeting?
Well,
There's no time limit.
if there's other questions, I'll sit down over there. I'll be there if anybody has questions.
Phil wants to get out of the hot spot.
I have a question because I'm confused about something. The agenda said that
Thanks,
if the
Phil.
road were abandoned by petition, that access to the road would no longer be accepted. It would be, public access would no longer be granted to the road. I'm hearing now that this may not be true, so I'm confused about that because it very clearly states that in the agenda for tonight. But that was the point of the petition, that it would remove public access to the road. So I would like someone to clarify that before all the discussion starts about whether that even is the case.
We need the road
All
commission
public
or
access would
return,
cease.
is that?
That's correct. All public access would cease is what was given to the public.
If a public highway, a county highway is abandoned pursuant to the statutory process, it's done correctly, it ceases to be a public highway, which means those rights that the road commission holds in trust for the public to use that area for transportation, access, ingress, egress, those sorts of things, disappear. The road, if there's a utility easement, the road commission can reserve the utility easement, but that's it. So I think it's accurate to say if the road commission board ultimately votes to abandon that highway, there is no public highway there anymore. What I think you've heard from the drain commissioner is that there might be other means of public access through there through separate easements, not highway easements that would be under the jurisdiction of the road commission, but separate easements that might be either already in place, I don't know, or that might be put into place down the road to allow the public special use over county property or township property or other property. I mean, I'm not as familiar with the location, but that's what I heard, is that if there was gonna be a non-motorized trail, that's a different sort of easement. It's not a public highway easement.
I'm trying to understand if the easement is over the top of the physical road or perhaps through some kind of a swamp area. Because people would need to access this. So the obvious place to access it is across a road. It's called Webster Road. So you see I understand actually your answer quite well, but what I'm confused about is exactly where the easement is. Is the easement on the physical road itself, or is the easement along the road, along in the swamp?
Which easement? The highway easement?
No, the berm and access easement.
I can't speak to that because I have no knowledge. I'll just answer the berm is right next to the road, but not the road.
So okay, so I think that's really clear for people to understand. So if the petition to abandon the road is highly consequential to anyone that might be pro-trail, because the easement we're talking about that the Clinton County Road Commission or Drain Commission possesses is along that road. It is not on that road. So your access, you trail goers, your access would be the side of the road in the ditch. That's how you would access the trail. And I think that's pretty important for people to understand the gravity of.
Let me read this one more time, because it's saying, maybe not one more time, but a time. It says, the public petition to abandon a portion of Webster Road's right-of-way. So I think your question is well taken. One, where's the right-of-way? And two, where's the abandonment? Is it just the right-of-way? And I think the Road Commission can answer that.
Well, a highway right-of-way would be the only thing that the road commission board could ultimately abandon. That's the only thing that it has jurisdiction over. Separate easements that were granted from adjacent property owners to the drain commissioner or to the county, the road commission has nothing to do with it. So, I mean, I don't know because I'm not familiar with the spot, but I heard your point to be that you think that the access easement, the berm and access easement that was given by property owners to the county, to the drain commission, is actually outside of the boundary of the highway easement for Webster Road?
It might be. None of us know.
Okay,
That's the
well,
answer.
that's something that you figure out from the school. So
Okay.
you should be, anybody should be able to pinpoint, here's the highway easement, here's the separate berm and access easement. Maybe they overlap, maybe they don't overlap, I don't know. But if the road commission board were to extinguish the highway easement, that doesn't have any effect on separate easements like the berm and access easement that were put in place independently of the creation of that.
So why do the abandonment if it will not stop us from having access? And so what's the benefit of the abandonment?
Well, that's part of what the public comments are going to be. I hope.
The benefit isn't to stop the people from having access that way?
Yeah, so technically, if they abandon the road, we still would have access to the trail.
That's,
The whole-
apparently that's what I'm hearing.
That's what we're hearing.
That the abandonment, that's exactly what I'm hearing, so I don't know
Well,
before I
we'll
was.
have to walk on the grass portion.
Which we do now, right?
Which you do now,
They
you
wouldn't
do, I
keep
mean,
us from
that's,
down there anyways.
that's,
Except for swamp, depending on where.
It's grassier around, where you can walk down and get to the park.
So technically, they would just gain a portion, they would gain their portion of the road to maintain themselves, but we would still be able to utilize the trail as long as we walked on the east side of the road into the grass. Because technically, they would not own that, the county would still own it. So then, they basically, when it's like this turn, shoot themselves in the
so
foot.
what's being looked at to abandon, if I'm understanding, so you guys holler out like you did before, is the road commission says that they have, or the drain commissioner said they had 40 feet on either side, or was that the road?
Right.
You had 40 feet on either side. So what you want, what the county is looking to abandon is a portion of that easement, the one to the west side? Is that-
Basically, the blacktop is what they want you.
We're gonna digitize something and Miles is gonna put it up on the screen so people can,
Okay.
I'm sorry. We have something we're gonna digitize and Miles is gonna put it up on the screen because I think it'll clarify.
That would be helpful.
Yes, instead of trying to guess.
Sometimes we need pictures and shapes.
Yes,
Yes, that's exactly right.
Me too.
I have a quick question about abandonment that has absolutely nothing to do with the trails. If they abandon the, if the city abandons the right of way, does that mean they no longer have to maintain the roads? Are they still going to be plowing the roads?
That, they don't do that now, as I understand. And
It's the very end.
that's, yeah.
It's kind of like their private driveway or whatever, just the very, very end goes out.
Where it goes down to one lane.
Uh-huh.
And it goes to the very, very end.
From Lindbergh back down?
No.
No.
Farther south.
Oh, okay, well, never mind.
Can I just clarify that, you know, I think there's maybe a misunderstanding from some folks. I think what's been, the petition that I read was to abandon the road basically south of the road end signs, or roughly that area. So anything north of there is gonna continue to be public road.
But it's the south, because that's what it, when it says a portion of Webster Road, it didn't say north-south, it just says a portion of Webster Road right away. So your understanding would be this south from where the road stops, the double wide, the 66 feet, which goes into a smaller area. That portion forward is the abandonment. Does that sound right?
That's what I believe is asked
Okay.
for, but you can clarify. That's correct.
A quick question for Phil. Does the easement for the drain and the easement for the county road overlap each other? In other words, if they abandon the easement, the county, but the drain doesn't, does that still mean they're gonna be
Oh, that's a good point.
having control of what you just said?
The berm easement along Webster Road follows the physical center line of the actual road. So whether the road easement lies on that same line, I
So if
don't
the
know.
road commission abandons it, you still have access to that road, i.e. the public to get to the trail system, or use it as private trail system, would have access as well.
Yes.
The public would, so you said that the public was gonna get easements onto the drain commission.
Yeah, and that would
And
be
right
the-
now, there is no easement, so if the road commission gives up their right of way, then it would be up to the drain commissioner to give easement.
We
for
would
the public.
essentially be giving easement to ourselves and documenting the existence of that easement, because the county owns a chunk of property there.
But right now, it's not written, so technically you
Right,
guys can come back and say no.
because there was no need to give ourselves an easement for the
Well, I'm not saying yourself, I'm saying for the public to go for on a nature walk. Like, right now, the drain commissioner doesn't have easement for a nature walk to walk through their.
Technically on the county property, I think that may be true.
So if you give up the
This is what I
right of
wanted the
way,
big screen.
then the public walking in until they get easement through the drain commissioner to walk through on your guys.
That should be true.
Sorry.
So can I?
Yeah, what is that show?
So, this is a map I prepared. So the green is the property that the county owns. That's the property we acquired on which to build the control structure in some portion of the berm. The entire yellow area is the berm and access easement that we acquired to construct the berm. And in some parts of it, we didn't have to construct anything because it's higher ground, but other areas were low, and we had to raise that ground to keep the water in the lake. So that's just a graphical representation of the easements that we have in the county property, which is the green piece.
Where is Webster Road? The yellow, or is that just the? Oh,
So it's
Just
two
to the
lanes.
right of
It's
the,
two lanes and then it narrows to one lane. So where it's yellow at the top.
okay, that is Webster Road.
Yes, and then it narrows to what? Private.
Okay.
Phil, could you point out where the bridge is?
Mark's got right there.
Yep. That would be the water control.
So from the bridge,
Structure.
from the bridge to Bath Township property, is where the,
Right here is the water control structure, and the so-called land bridge is right here. It's
Okay.
up at the boundary line between the green property and the next property.
Ken, is that where you see the trespass going on? From the
What
land
we've
bridge?
got- What we've got is, people have used this for years, okay? They've always come and asked, and I've always told them, go ahead and walk down through there, ride your bikes down through there. When it all started to go away was, when all of a sudden, we wanted as many inches as we could. So I took my gate that I had to put up there, so I get snowmobilers and stuff that come right down to my house, in the back of my property. So I put a plastic gate up there, and I moved my post over. So where Phil has got his drain and everything, he put rocks in there. If you walk the path from the road where the second gate, there's an entrance. If you walk down that path, you will go on the edge of those rocks and where that post is. And you're free, and you're home free.
Straight into the woods?
Is the
Straight in,
bridge
well, straight into the
your-
path that
yours or
drain
yours?
commissioner put down through there, yeah.
Is the bridge that you're talking about, is that your property, the county's property, or is it Ken's property?
Half and half.
Right, I would agree. I would agree with Ken that it appears to be half and half. That the county owns the north half, Ken owns the south half.
Can you point out where that is?
I can clarify too, from the road commission side, the right of way is not on the bridge. So we're totally out of the picture when you talk about the bridge. That's between the drain office and the property owner. We defined and clarified our right of way is not over that bridge, so we're out of the question there.
Because the right of way stops before you get to that bridge.
It diverges from the bridge. The bridge was not built in the road right of way.
So that's, you said the bridge was not built in your right of way?
The bridge is here, this is our right of way.
So if we want to do a nature trail, we need to build another bridge, is that what you're saying, to avoid his property?
No.
Now you just walk on the county side.
You just walk on the.
Well, it's not on the road commission right of way, so it's a different discussion
Okay, what would the discussion be then?
between the drain office and the township.
So,
One more, there's a real confusion here, and I know I've invited everybody down, but nobody's come down, maybe a couple people have come down. If you look at it, when you walk across, there is about 7 to 8 feet between the rocks and where I've got the post. Plenty of room for a bike, plenty of room for 2 or 3 people walking, plenty of room for a person with a dog to come through there. And that's been there for years.
That doesn't make it legal.
What?
That doesn't make it legal. What your description says, your survey, and what the county survey says is that the lot line literally goes down to the very center of that roadway.
Ray, if you look at it, and this is why me and Ray have such a tumultuous thing, is I have got it where it comes across the corner, it's my property. And then it goes down the trail. When it comes to that point, Ray, it is. When it comes to a certain point, the drain commissioner sees it, it goes to the right-hand side and left-hand. Phil owns that on the left, I own the one on the right of the drain.
I'm just going by the survey. That's all.
We've had 3 surveys, and luckily, maybe you'll get one that you like.
Not yet, I haven't.
Well, I think Ken's in agreement that half of that land bridge is his and half of it is on the county property.
The portion that's on the county property is what's the drain commission's.
That would, I think that should be cleared up with an easement specifically stating for the future non-motorized trail. But, as far as it is right now, I don't really have a concern with people walking on the property that's owned by the county. But it should probably be clarified legally through an easement document that, this section of the county property is there for use of the public for a non-motorized trail. It doesn't need to be complicated. It doesn't take a lot of time and money. It can be just executed.
Could we do one thing as a township board? I had to make a sign for people to turn around, because, of course, I've taken care of this road for 33 years. Could you make some signs so people would understand where they can walk, where they can go through, and where they can get the trail to go back to the island or go back to the trailer park? It would only take a couple signs.
I'm all for that, 100%.
Friends of Park Lake has money, just tell them you want to tell them that. Friends of Park Lake is.
I got a question.
That people walk down the road.
People walk down the road now.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah, it's driving down the road. The problem is, driving down the road, it says dead end road, no out. So when people come down there, I've replaced 7 mailboxes, 15 posts, and not one person that knocked down the mailboxes or hit the posts has ever stopped and said, "I'm sorry, I ran into it." Well, I'm 80 years old now. I can't keep repairing it.
My biggest thing is like, I understand that. My biggest thing is like, we walk down there, you ride your bike.
Yeah, no problem.
I mean, it's a whole lot harder to ride a bike on grass versus driving down the thing to get to the path. Especially for an 80-year-old little girl, because I mean, that's my biggest thing. I mean, I guess I don't understand why.
They've been doing it for years. Is there anybody here that walks down the road? Have no problem.
But I've seen the sign.
It's the cars.
Right.
Unless you're coming down to see me or my neighbor, what would you have to drive a car down
All right, is there any other questions for our drain
I have a
commissioner?
question actually from the board.
I could see you, Leon.
So, I mean, all this is informative, and it sounds like there's some solutions that can happen. The question before the board is, should you sign on to the petition? What I don't understand is what are the advantages and disadvantages of the board signing on to this petition?
But the understanding is there is no petition yet.
No, but that's what the question is, should they sign on to the petition?
There is a
Whether it's filed or
petition.
not.
No.
It just hasn't been submitted yet.
Sent in
No,
yet.
this is not a legal.
So why do you want to do it?
Read their rules, it's not a legal petition.
Whose rules?
Commissioner just said that they could build the trail no matter if you sign the petition.
Can we have a public comment, or are we gonna?
No, that's not what we're looking to see. Is there any other questions that anybody has for our drain commissioner, or our road commission? If not, I'm gonna open it up for testimony.
You got a lady back
Lady
there.
right back here by the wall. that has
It
a
might
question.
cut down on a lot of public comment if we heard from the board of Washington as to why it would benefit and what they would want, and maybe it would cut down on a lot of people's comments needing to speak at that point. So if they could speak first, maybe that would be helpful, I think.
How would I determine that?
The petition?
Well, the petitioner.
There are a couple right behind them.
Mr. Tierney, Mr. Boyle.
Oh, you're asking, because that was one of my next points, was after this was going to be opened up, that they would open it up first.
Cheryl has a question.
And then, I'm sorry, trustee, go right ahead.
Would it be possible to ask to question what is the advantage of abandonment, period?
I think
from
Leon asked
anyone,
a very
like,
good question.
to the public? What is the advantage to whom to abandon this roadway? What do we gain by abandoning it?
Yes.
I don't understand.
Yeah, because like, the whole point of the abandonment was so that we would be able to stop the trail. So if you do abandon it and they get it, we would still be able to use the trail anyways.
Might be harder or more expensive to do the trail.
Because there hasn't been
Get
anything
control.
legally submitted, and that, did you read what it was?
I don't see what you're saying, Marie. I see what you pointed out. I
Yeah.
don't read what you're
it
saying that this
says-
isn't legal.
and this is a question from the road commission, because this is your petition. It says the petition must be signed by 7 or more freeholders, someone holding either a fee interest, which I found that interesting, the fee interest or a lifetime estate of the township when the road is abandoned is located, of the township where the road to be abandoned is located. And I think if I'm understanding that, that means 7 petitions from Webster Road. Is that not? Okay, so it can be, so the petition that Mr. Boyle has submitted is a correct petition, even though it's on Clark Road and Drumheller and Is that what? Okay, so that petition hasn't been submitted yet at this point, but will be submitted. Is that what I'm understanding? Okay. Okay.
Can I make a comment, maybe to address the question? This is me, I represent the road commission, so I'm looking at it from the road commission's perspective. The part of Webster Road that is being contemplated to be abandoned, you're right, the petition has not been submitted yet, it's being circulated, people have seen it.
Yes.
The question is how many entities are gonna sign it, how many adjacent landowners are gonna sign it? Be nice to know whether all of them do before you submit the petition, because that has an effect on how the road commission processes it, but either way, not necessary that all the adjacent landowners do it. But my understanding of this right-of-way that's being proposed to be abandoned right now is that it's what's called an uncertified public right-of-way by the road commission. Certification is only about Act 51 highway maintenance funding. It's the gas tax, it's the registration tax, it's the big pool of money that gets collected by the state and then gets distributed by MDOT every year in accordance to the proportion of roads that each county road commission has to maintain. To be counted as a mile for Act 51 money, it has to be certified to the state. So it has to be a public right-of-way, and it has to appear on what's called a certification log that the road commission submits to MDOT every single year. This particular segment of Webster Road is not certified, which means this is not it's a public right-of-way. It's under the jurisdiction of the road commission. It was properly established as a highway, and it was never formally abandoned. It's a right-of-way, but it's not a right-of-way that for whatever reason the road commission has said, we can certify this for repair and maintenance purposes. So in other words, road commission is not getting paid by the state to do repair and maintenance activities on that particular segment. All right, so there's that. It's a public right-of-way, which means the public can use it. They can't be excluded. If you want to drive a snowmobile down there, or a motorbike, or a car, or a dune buggy, or whatever, and you can get it through there, the public's right to drive motorized vehicles through that road might be a good thing if what you really want there is a non-motorized pathway. And if the road commission board, when they look at the petition, ultimately says, well, wait a minute, we're not maintaining and repairing this road, we're not getting paid by the state to do it, it's an artifact because it's been part of the county highway system probably all the way back to the 30s when townships were required to transfer all their roads to the county road commission. But it's not necessary for public use. It's not improved to a standard that warrants routine maintenance. So, the road commission is being very fair and not telling MDOT to pay us for this mileage because we're not doing anything with it. So that would be one potential answer. What's the advantage to an abandonment? Well, if you want to exclude the public's ability to take motorized vehicles through there, that would be an advantage. Because your non-motorized pathway easement is going to expressly say no motorized vehicles. Right? Disadvantage? I'm sorry,
And
what's
what
that?
would be a disadvantage to signing on?
What would be a disadvantage to abandoning it?
Yes.
From I can't speak to community concerns or township concerns. From the road commission's perspective, once it's abandoned, to get it back, if they ever want to bring it back as a county highway, it has to be dedicated to them by whoever owns it at the time, and they have to accept it as a highway, or they have to condemn it, which means they have eminent domain power and they can pay fair value. But from the road commission's perspective, once it's abandoned, there's no easy way to get it back. So they would need to be sure that they don't ever need that right of way, or that right of way is not in the public's interest or wouldn't serve the public's interest at some point down the road. But that's what the board decides, and that's why they're elected and have discretion. They get to make that determination.
And what's it take to certify this so it would get state money?
To get state money, it'd have to be in a position where the road commission could start to do routine maintenance and repair, which is grading, snow removal, that sort of thing. I would guess, and you can speak to it if I'm wrong, but my guess is it's not improved to a level where the road commission could simply just start to do routine maintenance and repair. It would have to be built up to a standard that would allow them to do that.
By whom?
There would have to be township funds to build it up.
They already built it up, right?
Not the portion that.
Michael, go ahead.
So the question I have is, and just to
go back to your previous question, which is saying that if the advantages to not have motorized vehicles, and I understand that that's the current, I believe we're speaking with one of the current property owners that's doing that petition, that's what they care about. But would it not be true that if the easement was abandoned, the right of people to walk or bike and use non-motorized vehicles on that portion of the road would also no longer exist? And so if we wanted to guarantee that for the purposes of a trail, there would have to be a new easement obtained from the property owner.
I agree with you that the highway easement would be extinguished, so there's no public highway right held in trust by the road commission for people to walk, drive, do whatever on that public highway. We've heard tonight, and I'm not the expert in this, and I don't know what the other easements are, I don't know what the scope of those easements are, but I've heard represented that there are already in place easements that would allow public access through there, with maybe the exception of the county-owned property, because counties can't give easements to themselves. I completely understand that. I mean, what would be the point? But there would be ways to work around that. But I think,
not necessarily on the road.
The road would be gone. The public would have to gain that right through some other conveyance of a property interest, some other conveyance of an easement from all the adjacent property owners for that specific purpose. The benefit that I think I was explaining is that when you're a public highway, the law defines what can be done there. Right, and operating vehicles, motorized vehicles, is a thing that can be done in public highways. With other sorts of easements, they can be much more narrow, and they can be restricted to whatever the dedication of the easement is. And so if you want no motorized traffic, you just put that in the easement.
I have one last question for the county board, the county road commission, excuse me. In that the petition is to abandon Webster Road. Subsequent surveys have shown that, and in fact that survey right there was done before there was ever a road, before there was ever a bridge, before there were ever any canals. It was just roughed in by Floyd Oversmith. Several surveys subsequently show a road, prospective road called Parkey Drive. So what my question is when and if you abandon Webster Road, where does the proposed Park Key Drive begin and where does Webster Road end? Right now I have it on this property dispute, of the handouts that I sent. You can see a little teeny red circle. That's where the two intersect. Where the Park Key Drive was to come out and Webster Road was to go down. Right here. It's right, you can see it right there. Right there. That's where they intersect. So I would argue that Webster Road to the abandoned would stop right there. This would be Park Key Drive all the way into township property. So this would be a non-argument, what we're having right now.
Can I speak to that? When I first moved down there, Phil, remember the old dam that was there, and there was a abutment there for people to go across. That was the original road that you're talking about. And that was about probably 25, 30 feet on the other side of where the dam is. Is that where you ran that ditch? That was where the farmers used that road, and it connected to the other one. It's not the road that goes to there now. And it was a dirt road.
Yeah, go ahead, trustee. I have a question. If we abandon that, we can't drive past a certain point. Is the parking area that has been raised up, I understand there's an area where cars can park. Is that before the abandonment part?
Yes. Right.
Okay, that's what I didn't, so you can park your car and get out and walk the rest of the way, okay.
My biggest question is for future, like, should we need to repair the berms again? Does removing that affect that process or anything? Does it affect the homeowners since they would be the ones responsible for that?
So my answer would be no, abandoning the highway isn't going to affect future maintenance or funding of maintenance on the berm because that's a drain commission project. You know, that's drain commission jurisdiction, paid for through the drain code and however.
Can the road commission close the road to public use by other than abandoning the property?
So, right now, technically, because it's uncertified, that it's closed for public use. And what that means in the law, in transportation law, is that the road commission is not out there maintaining and repairing it. It's not spending public money to maintain and repair it. So it's closed for public use, but it's still a public easement. So if the public is out there using it, for example, and somebody calls law enforcement and says they're trespassing, if they're within the public easement, even though it's not being repaired and maintained by the road commission, they're not trespassing. The public has the right to be there. So technically, but with it being certified, with it not being certified, it also suspends the road commission's liability for injuries. So if somebody decides that they're gonna use that uncertified public right-of-way and they wanna go four-wheeling or, mud bogging or whatever, and they get hurt, they can't sue the road commission and say, hey, you created a defective condition in the road that injured me, because the road commission put everybody on notice that we're not out there doing that. If you use it, it's at your own risk.
My question before the both of you leave, have you three entities, have you gathered together and discussed this and come to, well, I guess first, have you discussed this as different groups gathered together? Yes, you have?
No, I haven't. So, I'm sorry. I'm gonna throw a wrench into it.
No,
I don't
have
know.
questions.
Yeah, that's why we're sitting here going.
Karen, are you saying the staff, on behalf of the
Staff.
township, the board
Staff
has
done
not?
it, not the board.
Reviewed the survey results when the survey came in.
Right.
Not the board.
So, but I mean, did, okay, then, the township staff then, drain commission and, road commission, what were your thoughts as a group then? Did you say, hey, we're not gonna do this, and, we can all get up and go home? We weren't sorry, but, or did you say, this is a good idea, we should think about it?
What's the idea?
This abandonment, because
No, it was to review the three documents that are part of the packet to understand where the road right of way actually was. Because it was somewhere different than a lot of us even understood where it was.
So before we had the meeting, the three separate entities had not congregated to discuss that question.
The abandonment.
No, not the abandonment, it was to discuss where the road right of way actually was.
the survey results.
Yes, the survey results.
And the board can't get together to talk about this stuff outside of a public meeting.
Understood.
Well, you can, but it's illegal.
Sure, Ray.
Do you know that, Ray, because you're a planning commissioner, that we?
Yeah, automatically
Is that the statement you made? That's a poor statement for somebody who's a public official. Like you.
I agree.
Point blank. That's a poor statement.
Why is it poor? It's a fact.
Hang on,
No,
guys.
it's not a fact.
All right, hang on.
Hey, guys.
Just hold on. Thank
If you
you.
don't mind, I wasn't finished.
Thank you.
Was there an idea of how you all wanted to go so that we could get an idea of how this all wants to play out?
No, so part of it was for us to understand, including the police department, because they received calls for trespassing, and the police department indicated to me they did not have a clear understanding of where the road right of way was, so that if the old boys or Mr. Tierney called the police and said somebody was trespassing, that they were legitimately trespassing or not trespassing. So with where the trail is currently worn, I'll call it, because it crosses near the drain commissioner's water control structure. We were trying to understand if it went straight into the township's property where the trail is currently worn, and that's what then we come to understand that it actually went in a different direction. So we were trying to just understand what we were talking about in commonality roadway.
Okay, so the letter that we received says all public access roads cease. Is that correct or not correct?
If you abandon the road right of way, that's correct. Motor vehicles.
To that parcel of paved property.
Yes.
You still have access to the trail, which is part of the drain, and he's not giving that up.
I'm not sure which letter you
I
were
was
referring
referring to the road
to.
right of way.
If, right, I mean, it would be accurate to say that public access, public use of the highway right-of-way would cease to exist is true because the highway right-of-way ceases to exist. The easement is abandoned. That doesn't, if the question is access to what? I mean, if you're talking about access to the water or some other places, I mean, there could be other easements, we've talked about some of them, that could allow public access for certain purposes to certain areas, but it's not gonna be via a county highway.
But it sounded to me like the drain commissioner was saying that even if it's abandoned, you can still build the trail.
Correct.
Yes.
But that's not through, the public
Not
road
through the
right
road
of way.
commission.
After the easements from the drain commission.
Correct.
and
There's a
like
question in the back.
building it over the existing highway.
Yeah. There's someone raising their hand back there.
Great, thank you, and thank you all for being here and discussing this.
That's
Yes,
exactly.
sometimes these things get heated, and I thank you for your input. We don't want damage to anybody else's property, that's obvious, but what we do want is the Park Lake Trail. We do want a place to park, and we want access. As far as the road goes, if we abandon it and we don't have to maintain it, oh well, we want a trail, right? There's 2 houses there. I've driven down that road several times. I've been very careful, and for anybody that's not, shame on them. Secondly, does that landlock any other property that the township owns if that road is abandoned? And if so, what is that property that the township owns?
I guess the township would probably have to answer that. I believe you have access on the backside of the township parcel.
What about the front side?
I'm not aware. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, what about the front side? I know what Mark's saying about the back side. I get that.
shows it on this map that there is access to it. Where the road is wide, that
exists, and you can go around this way.
Okay, so there's through via land, we would still have access.
So it's not landlocked. That's the question that was asked.
It looks like our land goes to where the highway becomes
The,
narrow.
There are several township parcels just to the east of that bridge that say landlocked on there. In fact, there are a couple, there's one at least private parcel that says landlocked.
Yes.
Catherine Bruce parcel.
Correct me if I'm wrong, if you look at allotment that would be abandoned and landlocked, if the road is abandoned, it's close to 40 acres. Am I
Yeah.
correct?
It's about 40 acres.
Yeah, so 40 acres that's abandoned, that the township will no longer have access to, I have an issue with that. Because we own that property as a township.
Yes, that's true.
You can't access it from the east side from Old Island because you'd have to go through the playground to get to it. That's the only way you can get to the trail on the east side.
Right, we've got one more out here. Hang on just 1 second.
So question for the road commission, I just want to make sure that I'm interpreting the policy correctly. So if this petition is filed, and as I understand it right now, at least 2 of the 3 or 4 adjacent property owners have signed this petition, if the commission puts it in front of the board and decides to say, yes, this is valid, we may consider abandoning this, does the township have first right of refusal? So the township can still say, we want this road, and if that is correct, what I'd like to understand further is section 9 of your policy, where you state that the township then is taking responsibility of, I believe it said, preventing litter, noise, congestion. What does that look like for the township if they decide to do that, and provided we decide that they are gonna abandon it?
So it's not correct to say that the township has first right of refusal in all circumstances. It depends on whether all of the adjacent landowners have signed the petition or not. If they all have, that highway immediately reverts to the adjacent landowners. It doesn't go to anybody else. If all of the adjacent landowners have not signed the petition, then the township gets it first. It's not even really a first right of refusal. The road commission gives it to the township, and then the township decides what they're gonna do with it. They're either gonna use it, or they're gonna let it revert back to the adjacent owners. So it's an extra step depending on the type of petition that's filed with the road commission. Subsection 9, I think what you're referring to is actually subsection 9 of the abandonment statute, which simply just says, look, if another municipal entity, whether it's a DNR or the township or whomever, takes responsibility for that former county highway easement, they have to keep it clean. You know, they have to remove trash and they can't have littering and all of that, and if they don't do that, then there's a mechanism to go against it. But that's really an imposition on whoever it is that ultimately gets it. Not whoever, it doesn't apply to private landowners if it reverts back to the adjacent landowners. But if a municipal entity like the township swoops in and says, hey, we want to preserve this right of way for our own purposes, no longer county road commission right of way, but we're going to use it for whatever the township decides to use it for, that's lawful, they have to also keep it clean.
Has Bath Township ever done that before?
I don't know the answer to that.
Can I officially raise my hand and ask a question? By going by this, we'll say, legacy survey that ENG did, the subject roadway of Webster Road, right of way, would you all agree that it doesn't touch in any way and goes completely south of the land bridge that we spoke about? So it would have nothing whatsoever to do if the roadway was indeed abandoned. The bridge would not be, quote, Webster Road, and would not be part of the abandonment. It would be a totally separate issue.
That is correct.
Right, that's a great segue. Oh, did you have a question?
The gentleman in the back asked if we would still have access to township land, and I don't know that he got an answer to his question.
Well,
If you abandon that road, you give up those rights.
yeah, that's when, I was gonna say.
Hold on. This is what happened last time too. A bunch of people had different answers. So I'm looking for anyone over there that has authority to answer that.
So I wish if our WAC was working, right, a little bit of a technical issue, I'd pull up FetchGIS and we could look at this on a bigger map. But you're correct, there is a 40-ish acre parcel that appears to be landlocked. However, this is that 40-acre parcel, right? It continues this way. Now you're seeing a small bit of access.
Not shown more.
Okay, you're seeing a small bit of access there. However, Bath Township also owns this parcel here, right? This portion of Webster Road is not up for abandonment. So just a parcel boundary adjustment, a simple piece of paperwork that can be done internally by staff could allow a boundary adjustment to provide that parcel access.
That's underwater, Miles.
Yeah. But
And I think,
am I incorrect in understanding that if we abandon the public right of way, that doesn't abandon our access to our property?
Yes, it does.
we understand the point about,
Well, if you own the land, then no, correct? If they own the land adjacent to the right of way.
You have to own land that touches a public right of way to be entitled to access. Right? So the question here is that you've got a sort of an interior parcel that if that little stub is abandoned.
This is ours.
And so, right, but your access to that parcel would be through another parcel that you own, separate parcel but common ownership. So if that were ever sold, for example, that would be, if the top parcel were ever sold, that would be a circumstance where you could go to circuit court and ask the circuit court to imply an easement over the top parcel because it was common ownership and nobody would sell a property intentionally landlocking another property. So courts can intervene. You don't want to get it, you don't want to let it get to court action though. I mean, if that were ever an issue, you'd want, if it were going to be sold, for example, you want to create a formal easement.
we could do a boundary adjustment
Yeah.
before we do the easement. There's many avenues to create access here. But Ray, to your point of this being underwater here to create access, well, I think you know, we looked at some pretty interesting things on the planning commission. You can engineer your way out of it.
Oh, that is, yes.
And I think
But I mean,
for
you
the
can't get a
trail,
fire, you can't get a
for
fire
what-
truck through.
For what you guys are, well, you can't get fire trucks through there now.
On the road you can.
I don't think a fire truck could get through.
Oh heavens, they put gravel trains across that ditch.
But you don't have access across the ditch here. There is no, you have to build a bridge across that ditch.
If you go by the legacy, survey that
That
you show
is,
there.
that is the survey.
Can we stop this for a minute?
This is the illegal survey.
For 33 years, I've had a plastic fence up. Fire department, that township, police, the emergency vehicles know that they can pull a fence down and get back to the lake. It's been that way for 30-some years. So for emergencies to get back to that piece of property, it's there. It's always been.
So to clarify, we would have to do some boundary adjustments to be able to have access to township property, but there's concern that one of those parcels is underwater.
It's marshy right there. It's marshy and water intensive in that whole area. I mean, that's primarily, I assume, is prior to my time, but why that township owns these properties in the first place. They're not easily developed.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be practical. So like to get access to our property, you're gonna have to put some waders on, right?
Yeah, I mean, to get access
Okay.
to some of the
Might be deeper than that.
Oh, it's okay, some stilts.
Yeah, to get access to some of the portions of this whole trail network at this point, it's quite wide. There would be engineering that would have to be done.
If I could, one thing I want to mention too on these parcels. This parcel is the first parcel that's owned by that township, and this was formerly lot number 1 of that proposed Oak Island. The township bought that for $8,000. Where that point is right there, is supposed to be right there where that road is. This is actually the surface of the proposed Parkey Drive. If you look at those surveys, Mark, you may want to have your fetch people look at that and adjust it accordingly.
Can we get back to that part about the township has the first right of refusal? Because I believe the part I read on that was because it's ends at a water point of entry, the DNR has to sign off on that as well. And if that's the case, does the township need to write a letter of intent saying, we want to keep access to, for this pathway and the parking lot, for example, or the DNR might want to put a little parking lot in there, Department of Natural Resources. So I think that it's kind of complicated, and it sounds like they have a lot of mixed interests. I would think it might be a good idea to get a little subcommittee together with somebody from the DNR, somebody from the township, somebody from Park Lake, somebody from the Road Commission, because it seems to me that we would want to have access to that parking lot and that other property. And obviously the private property owner maybe want to get a little more land, that's fine. And the county though might want to retain some access too. In other words, might want to split it up 3 ways. Because who's going to plow the roads? And if the DNR wants to get in there, they're going to want the county to plow the roads. So it's complicated. But I think, first of all, because the township has first right of refusal, they should exercise that right. And then decide, well, between the township and the road commission and the county, what's the best path forward? Because, yeah, there's a lot of paths.
In your
We want a
opinion, does this
path
end
through the
at
pathway, we want a parking lot, we want everybody to be happy, but it's pretty complicated. And I think we want to give this away to all the private property owners, that's not a solution. We've got all 4 or 5 stakeholders need to get together and figure out maybe a 3-way split or something. At least
Okay,
that's my.
Will, at this, thank you, and I don't mean to cut you off by any stretch.
One more point though, I had to come down here, I was watching most of this at work, and I don't know if those points were covered before, but you can't see this. All on TV is you see a dark room with people looking at.
I know, that's always, anything like that's always been an issue.
3 years for that.
Yeah, it should be fixed. At this point, it sounds like everyone has pretty much listened to what the road commission and what the drain commissioner has said. So my question has to be, because of time that trustee had brought up, brings up the issue of 3 minutes per person who would like to testify. Now, after hearing them, are you pretty much in agreement? Do you need to testify, or do you want to continue?
I've relinquished my
Okay,
public statement.
all right, Ray, we'll take
I
you
would
off.
like him to answer the question of if this is considered, if it ends at water. Because it was my understanding that the road commission didn't feel that this ended at water.
If there are special rules under the statute for abandoning highways that
Right.
end in bodies of water, but we're here
Adjacent to.
well, run adjacent to, or cross, or end in a body of water, I just don't see it based on the
Okay.
survey.
So we're to understanding that the natural resource isn't involved in what this happens.
I don't think the DNR would be involved. Whether the
Okay.
township has, the right to keep it depends on what sort of petition, but not because the road ends in a body of water.
Okay, nope. I'm gonna, I'm sorry, George, what?
Can I ask one question?
You're allowed one.
Could the Clinton County Road Commission explain exactly where the abandonment ends or starts? Is it at that sign and then south, so there's still access to that lot? Correct.
That is not up to us.
Okay.
That whoever does the petition chooses where, they approach us when they petition to abandon.
At a certain,
We don't have a say in where that structure is.
okay.
They have to describe what they are requesting to be abandoned in the petition. And it has to be precise enough so that the road commission board knows exactly what they're voting.
Thank you.
So what's being stated here as public petition to abandon a portion of Webster Road right away.
That got me. That's okay.
So what's being proposed?
Can you show
So
us the
that's
portion
not-
that's going to be abandoned?
You think that light? So the petition currently states that it would start right there.
Right at the party.
At the party
Before or after?
South
It
as
says
the parking lot.
Just south.
at the gate, south.
Basically where the
South.
road narrows.
Yes.
So that would be south of that parking area or that staging area that was used. Okay.
Thanks for putting it
What,
high.
the parking area that's gated off, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Well, yes, the parking area that they used as their staging area, which has been asphalted and et cetera, that is apparently north of what they're talking about. Is that correct? No one's saying no, so I guess it is.
Well, who are you asking, Marie? I don't think they're listening to you.
Parking lot will remain a part of the public road.
Okay.
Thank you.
A parking lot on Webster Road?
There's a little, if you're driving south on Webster where the road end signs is, on the
Yes.
left-hand side, there's a little parking area off to the side.
Is it where there's a large emergency gate there?
Yes.
Right, Mark, there's asphalt.
Well, no, I'm sorry.
It's where all the spoils, it's my understanding that's where the spoils came from when they did the drain,
Gotcha.
the water control structure.
Yes, and that was contemplated to be a trailhead for the trail at some point.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Are we doing,
Right.
I'll make
So-
at least one public statement.
I was
So
gonna
we're
say,
talking with the rest.
Mr. Boyle is one of the two who are there, and if you don't mind, from our list, and I don't see Guy, he may have left already, to go ahead and
Mr.
make.
Jeremy is right behind me.
Yes, he is, so, go ahead, Pam, thank you.
So I want to just put this in the public record. That's my part. I attempted, and I thank all of you, especially the road commission and the drain commission, for coming down here and doing this. And I thank all of you for any research you've done prior, from our last public meeting that we had to now, to just gaining the facts. And that these, I think, these individuals laid out the facts pretty clearly. We are asking you to agree that we would like the public roadway to be abandoned exactly where they just stated in here, not affecting the parking lot, and that that vehicular traffic would be stopped at that point by abandoning public roadway. The left part of the berm, in which the Clinton County Drain Commission the commonly left, or the east side of that road, is mowed grass by one of the two of us. And that is where we would like to see, if any future trail goes, is stay on the mowed grass. It doesn't restrict that. And to your comment earlier of the kids on the bikes, I'm worried about on that one lane portion. I would like a road, some form of, if it's going to be a biking trail, I would like that to be improved enough that your daughter can ride her bike, not where cars have to travel to get to and from work or house, the hospital, and emergency cases.
Make that all the way around the lake.
What?
So make that all around the
Yeah, a sidewalk around the lake. I would love a sidewalk around the lake. So I just want to be sure that we're clear that that's what we're asking is for that public roadway to be abandoned where we see in this document that doesn't even line up. So if Mr. Hanses was willing to do an easement with you, I was always under the impression that if that moved over, that it would still have walking access and it would just restrict the public roadway that is there. I also have some concerns about the public notice that was sent out about this meeting. I've never seen one of those for a special meeting. I believe, and the lawyer may be able to help us, that the precedent is usually 300 feet from said issue, and I don't think that's who that letter was sent to in this case. So I would like to request all meeting documents be mailed to everybody and not just specific individuals or the township, or that we follow the procedures that we've had in place before that and not make special rules for special meetings. So I'm happy to answer any other questions. I just want to make sure that was on public record. And again, I appreciate your time, and I hope we work this out.
I have a quick question for you. When you talk about the 300 residents to be mailed, are you talking all of Webster Road?
No, I believe, and again, that the precedent has been that you have to send notice to people that are within 300 feet of this.
So that's what you're...
There's only 2 other people that are within 300 feet of this.
That's correct.
And how many letters were sent from the township?
I don't know that.
Okay.
Approximately 70.
How many?
Approximately 70.
70.
Okay. And so there should have only been likely, according to what's been done in the past, 4 of those that were sent.
So you're arguing that they informed too many people?
I've missed
Caused too many problems?
No, I've missed a bunch of these meetings for not getting notice like that. So I would actually just ask that you do it for everything if you're.
Oh, I agree.
So no, I would like one way or the other, because I've missed a bunch of these.
And 2 days, like further than 2 days in advance too would be great too.
Okay, so I think we've closed, yeah, so, but either way, I wanted to just put that on record.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Terame, did you have something to start us off, and then I'm going to start our public comments.
This ain't gonna be anything about the road or anything else.
3 minutes.
I'm 80 years old, and the rhetoric that's coming over the internet and stuff that has people coming down there and coming up into my driveway and giving me the finger and other things, me and my wife have been put in danger over this. If you're going to talk about something and you know that it's the truth, that's fine. But some of it is not true. And I'm just worried about me and my wife. I don't think that I did anything for anybody. I served in the armed forces. I give you the right to be able to have free speech. But free speech does not mean to disrespect people. And my wife won't even let me go out of the house now when somebody drives up. I just thought I'd put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking for Guy Elsenberg. Apparently Guy has left. I didn't see your event. All right, Ray, you've given up yours. So Kathleen Lykoff?
I think most of my questions have already been addressed tonight, so this has been super helpful. Thank you. I also need to say my full name and where I'm from since I'm just, all right, we're good. Great, thank you. So, unpopular opinion, perhaps. I am pro-trail. I am pro-abandoning the road, honestly. From what I heard tonight, it sounds like it would be in the trail's best interest to not have motorized vehicle on that stretch of road. And if that happens to satisfy our two landowners that are there, while also protecting their property, hopefully giving them peace of mind over any motorized vehicles that are coming up to their property, then I'm okay with that, right? We're looking to do a community improvement here. It needs to benefit all the community members. And that's a big thing, and I'm glad Mr. Termy said this. What I'm seeing online is that we're picking and choosing the facts that we choose to share to narrate our story. You have to look at everything. And there is conflicting information, plain as day. How many surveys? Can we all agree on one of them? Probably not. But there are other policies and procedures that are laid out that are being followed right now. If anything, what I would ask this board to do tonight, if there is an action taken during the regular board meeting, is to take a stance, right? I think everybody here is tired of talking about this. We'd like some affirmative, whatever that affirmation is, so that we know how to move forward here. My only other question, I think, that wasn't necessarily asked tonight is that the improvements to the water control structure that were completed to maintain the water level, when that was that voted upon as a special assessment by us township members? Sounds like it.
Not the public, the
Not
board.
public. The board voted for it. When you voted for it, were you very specifically voting for the water control structure? Or did you also include any language about the trail, access, easements, parking, changes to the existing berm that was built up, or I think it was the berm that built up, sorry if I'm misstating that. Was there anything else that was included in that when the board voted on it, or was it just simply the water control structure?
I'm the only one who was on the board at this time. No.
He mentioned that there was conversation though.
But no, the answer is no.
Okay.
It was strictly about the lake level, and that was driven by a court case at the county, forcing the county to raise the lake.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Oh, good woman, you're under three.
Can I
Oh.
touch on that?
Sure.
Okay, just for a little brief history on this. Back, 12 years ago or so, the township board petitioned circuit court to establish or reestablish a legal lake elevation for Park Lake. So that was a court hearing. So the court then said, yes, the elevation should be such and such. So then it came to my hands, and part of that process was also to establish a special assessment district that included all the properties that front on Park Lake. So that's how the special assessment district was determined. So then it fell into my hands to come up with the design, work with the engineers, get it constructed, and borrow the money, and then assess ultimately to the landowners in the special assessment district, to the township, and to the county. So that just kind of explains the process.
I'm sorry, who brought up the legal?
That was petitioned by the township board, I believe, back about 12 years ago. So they,
That township.
yes.
Okay, our next one to testify. I'm sorry.
Can I add to Ryan's statement? So although the vote might have been just around that, the water structure, like Mr. Hansley said, there should be things in the minutes that talk about how the reason the design was done was for the trail. So there was all talk, because I was on the board at the time. So there was discussion about that throughout the whole process, which is why we actually paid more money than what we would have done had we just done the control structure.
Thank you, Bill. All right, my
Can I
next.
ask one question?
Oh.
With, like, the property owners and stuff like that, they abandon it, everybody talks about easements and right of ways and stuff like that. Could you abandon the road and have the landowners agree that access on that section be walkway and bikeway only, and then, for example, if somebody drives down there and flips me off, then the cops can come in and take care of them, where everybody else, that's just walking then if anybody drove towards your house or, going after motorized vehicles, then that eliminates that problem.
So that can be addressed, but where are we at in the meeting for comments?
That's what I appreciate that, and so does everybody else. Hang on to that thought, okay? Carolyn Ward?
Hello, my name is Carolyn Hort. I'm a Park Lake Road homeowner and with the Recreation Advisory Committee, former Park and Recreation Committee person as well. I was just coming here today. I think I got a lot of information and questions answered, so I appreciate that. I look forward to hopefully being able to move forward with the nature trail. We had meetings held and the town sounded like they wanted it. A lot of people who were very concerned were the homeowners, and we want to address their safety issues. And so I hope that we get that a chance to be able to do that. As well as I just wanted to state that I just don't feel like it's a good idea to abandon township property. Once you do it, it's kind of like opening up a box of crazies. All of a sudden you abandon this property and then the next homeowner's like, oh, wow, I could really benefit if you abandoned this property for my own personal use as well. And I just don't think it's within a good idea to do that personally. So I just wanted to state that.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Ward. Ms. Ritchie?
Left her daughter.
Mike Ritchie, Outer Drive, and this meeting was about as clear as the last meeting. But thank you for having it, and I think it was a great idea, and I love the back and forth discussion. I think it's really important, and I'm proud of y'all for doing it. The nature trail, I'm all for it. I think you board probably already knows that part. I agree with many of the other statements. Nobody wants to be a property owner and be tread upon. You don't want people on your property that shouldn't be there or that are abusing it. And I think, I'm not even sure, but what it sounds like is that it could be worked upon, but with the homeowners, I mean. But if the homeowners change and there's new homeowners down the way, do the perimeters change or do the permissions change? I'm going to, gosh, I don't know which way you're going to go on this. But I guess I would ask you not to join the petition, because I think that's the only place that we're at right now, isn't it? Is it joining the petition?
Yeah, yes, I'm not sure why no one's answering you. Yes, that is the decision for us to join the petition.
And it's the next meeting that we're asked to do that, I think.
Right, okay. I guess I would ask you to make a decision. I do agree with Ms. Hord that spoke earlier. That makes me really nervous. But, you know, it's time to fish or cut bait, right? So let's. Good luck.
Thank you, Ms. Ritchie. All right, the next one, this handwriting, is it Ben? Laren? Is that a T? Oh, that's Ken's writing. Sorry, I haven't seen that before. Do you have anything else to add to that, Ken? Okay.
No.
Got it, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We've got Christy Smith, Smith? How do you say?
Smith.
Yes, it is.
I'm Christy Smith. I'm a property owner at the end of Webster Road with my husband, Pat Boyle. One thing I did want to bring up, and we keep saying Bath Township is abandoning property, and we're talking about abandoning a public roadway. So we're not talking about technically abandoning property. The other thing that I personally feel is using that road for, I don't think it's safe to have a trail on the actual road. What we've talked about is the grass area, fine, but I don't think it's safe to be directing kids and bikes and everything, excuse me, down the road where vehicular traffic is gonna be, because we do need to access our homes. And the third thing, that I just had thought of as the meeting has progressed is we keep talking about, the residents on the lake paid for this improvement, which I understand, and I'm not trying to be petty or anything, but didn't it help your home values to have the lake, to maintain the levels of the lake? No, it doesn't help the value of your property to have a nicer lake in front of your house. Yeah.
Yes.
It's not nice.
All right, we have Kathy Zielinski. Oh. Nope, okay, got it. Gary? Looks like. I was gonna say, is that, that's a.
What, Schaefer?
No, that's not B, it looks like B-A-L-L-E, but that's what you said, Mary. Go ahead.
Mary left.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
And-
Hello,
Oh,
my
thanks,
name's Gary
Gary.
Schaefer.
Okay.
I live on Park Lake Road, and there's an awful lot of traffic on Park Lake Road. And I've been down the road to the trail several times. There's generally been about 3 cars that go by me, so there's really not an awful lot of traffic on that road to be concerned about. There's literally hundreds of these trails in Michigan alone, in just Michigan. Now, my sister lives in Florida, there's trails there. There are trails everywhere. And what I would like is to have a trail and use that road to ride my bicycle down, because it's a paved road. And like I said, I've probably been passed on that road by a car 4 or 5 times, at the most. So generally, what I would say is, this is a trail. They're not going to be putting a Dollar General down there. That would add a lot more traffic. So what I would like is to just have the trail and use the road occasionally for people on bicycles. But if you don't want us to use the road, then we can ride on the grass. So that's all I'm proposing, is to just let's just get the trail done. Because, like I said, if anyone wants to see these, or we can pick them up almost anywhere in the state of Michigan, there are hundreds of trails, and they're non-motorized, but people do have a parking spot to park their car. And they'll still have the parking spot, yes. So that's what I would like.
I just freaking don't. I expected to hear a bunch of really unreasonable property owners. I don't think I heard that. I know there's a bunch of people that are pro-trail. I happen to be one of them, but I just don't see why we can't work this out. This seems ridiculous. Get the people in the room that need to make a decision and make a decision. And no, you can't abandon without getting your easements, right? This is a trade. This is a deal. This is a simple deal that needs to be made between the stakeholders. There's too many people here. There needs to be 10 people maximum in a room that make a deal. And that's what I propose. I'm a little embarrassed that a town this small, like Bath, needs to have this much drama over something simple.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, I have my last one, unless I'm missing somebody, which could be. It's Ray. How do you say your last name? Mather. Mather? M-A, okay.
And on one note, agreeing with Connie, there's way too much going on. Secondly, anybody that harms a woman or a man in their home and trespasses on their land should be arrested, period. I fully enforce that. We have been beating this subject up. I moved out here in 2003 with my wife. I love Bath. It's quiet. Nothing happens. This is a cool place to live. This is the toughest thing we've dealt with since we've been here. Abandoning the road and keeping them safe. There's a lot of people here that don't want to. There's a lot that do. I don't know what the right decision is, but I know the right decision is 90% of the people here want the trail. Several people want to protect their children because they want to ride the bikes down the road. Do we put in a paved path on the easement, if it's allotted by the Drain Commission, to where they can ride their bikes down a paved path? Do we abandon the entire part of the road? Or do we abandon a portion to keep the homeowners safe? Not the whole road, but maybe half the road. Would that help them? Give them a stopping point before they get to their property or properties to where they're not going to be harmed, so where they can feel protected. You're not taking care of the road because it's not a certified road, and the county, Clinton County, says they're not going to take care of it. So they are. Great, not a problem. The easement still maintains. We still have access to the road, and it's also my understanding that there's approximately $50,000 that have been allotted, if I'm not incorrect, please correct me if I'm wrong, to work on that trail. And then I also understand that the township has a large amount of money still in the kitty that could probably, a portion of that could probably be used to get the path in for the safe bikers, for the safety of the people wanting the trail. We can do this together. We can do this so the landowners are safe, so nobody trespasses on their property, so nobody's going by flipping them off, driving up his driveway, swearing at them. They don't need that. Everybody should be protected in their own home, no matter what the circumstances are. I think we can do this together. I just think we all need to get along and find a way to do it.
So do I.
And thank you.
Thank you. Judy?
Good evening. My name is Judy Gardy. I'm president of Friends of Park Lake. And I just want to thank Phil for being here tonight and the Road Commission as well. We have been, as an organization, working in good faith with the Township, the Drain Commission, and the Road Commission to get the trail. This is what people want. People want the trail. I think we've heard some really great suggestions tonight. I think there's a way to do this, and I really would encourage the board to move forward and help us get that trail. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Is there anybody else? Have I missed somebody? Okay, Will.
Didn't get here in time to sign off. 2 points. First of all, I believe the road commissioner said that he didn't think the road ended at a waterway. Well, why does the road stop there? It stops because there's a lake there, marsh and wetlands. You can't build the road any further. It stops at the water. And I believe the phrase they use is whether it stops at a water or water access point. That's definitely a water access point. You can't get to the lake from that part of that side without going down that road. So I think you have to revisit that, and I think you do need to get a hold of DNR and get their viewpoint on that. See if they want to work with the Park Lake group to build and maintain that trail, if they haven't already. I think some of the Park Lake people have. The second point is, I think there's plenty of land there to build a separate private road. If these private landowners want a road, there's enough access. They can build a single lane road on the right, divide it off from the public access roads, and have it clearly signed this way to the Park Lake access, private road only, no trespassing. So that's a possibility too, but like the other fellow said, you need to get the main stakeholders together and figure it out, draw it on the map so everybody knows what the future would look like. Right now, we're just, well, this would be here, this would be there, maybe yes, maybe no. I'd like to see an exact drawing of what it would look like if it was abandoned and if it was not abandoned, or if it was two separate roads. That would be very helpful, I think, in the decision-making process. But I still urge this board to write a letter of intent saying, we want the first right of refusal. Because if you don't say that and you want to get the DNR involved, then the road commission could just abandon it. Although I did believe he did say that they do have to give you guys the first right of refusal automatically. But I think it would be good to signal your intent ahead of time. And by the way, Will White from Main Street. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? And once-
I have to go this way to go that way.
Okay. I get it. All right, is there anybody else that wants to speak? Well, in that case, you guys really did a great job sitting here and listening, and I hope this was very informative, at least to a degree, to help figure some of it out as to how it goes. So, according to we have public comments. Is there anybody else?
Maria, are you going to tell them what the next steps are?
The next step is public statement.
No, the next step to this process.
I don't know what the next step is to this process.
All right,
other
this
than-
item is on the agenda for
I
the
was gonna say
full
it's on the
meeting,
agenda.
and we're poised to take action
Is
at that
what
point.
you're talking about, the next
That's
step?
why I said it, yep.
All right. It is poised on, well, at this point, it's on the agenda for a vote under items for action. So, is that, because I don't know the next, after that, we'll wait and see. So, are there any other comments that want to be made publicly? Okay, got it. So we will be adjourned at
7:26.
26. All right. Oh,